We're going to focus on a number of debates between the Rambam and the Raavad, and notice an interesting pattern. All debates concerning Rosh Hashanah. Jacobson's here.
On his way.
On this way. Okay.
First time using it. So make sure we get it.
Okay.
Unless you wait for something.
Shall we? We should go. Let's go. Let's begin. I'm sure we have to all go home tonight and cook. So I don't want to hold you back too long. Okay. Unless you're all fasting Rosh Hashanah. You know, there's a big debate.
Half a day.
If you're allowed to fast a full day. Fast a full day Rosh Hashanah. We had a shir last year. Last year.
We talked about Friday night. I mean, the first night.
We touched upon it.
Yeah.
Last year we had a whole an expedition upstairs, was in a classroom. A long expedition about eating flesh and wine.
Raisins and
Marshall wouldn't eat fish. He
Raisins.
loved fish, wouldn't eat them.
raisins and celery.
Raisins and celery with the salad.
Some people would also not talk.
My wife made
at all
it.
during Rosh Hashanah, right?
Okay, that's what
work.
time is
It'll
deal
work.
with. That's not really good in halacha.
Yeah,
Halacha is good that you're allowed to fast Rosh Hashanah.
Kids.
According to some. According to
What
some.
was it that we did in the salad last year? Because I did it and it worked. Well, want to make sure we do it again.
Celery?
No, it's raisins and celery.
You should get a raise in your salad.
Yeah.
Half
I've,
half a raisin and celery.
But that means only in the English-speaking countries, right?
Yeah, but the
Your
whole
mom does
thing.
that.
Yeah, that's what
that was
that's
the shir
what
was
it
about.
says. Well, we
We
meant
used words in other languages.
Yeah, whatever it means in your language.
Oh wow! So it was raisins and celery.
Whatever it means in your language is what it means to you, and they God
I don't
recognizes
want to
that.
take too long, but in Hungary,
What if you're commission based?
okay, in Hungarian, you have two ways of saying
that salad.
You say challah,
Stop closing more deals.
and then you say barches.
Barchesh.
But what does it mean?
My brother has to
Okay,
make a
in
salad.
Hungarian, okay,
For sure.
never actually, you know what, it's a long story and I realize it's gonna take forever.
If we
so
finish early, then we'll.
Then after,
Okay, you owe us a story. Remember
remind me another
about the barchesh, the barchesh from Hungary. Well, I'll just start with a quick story related to Reb Chaim Brisker's father, the Beis Halevi. Yosef Dov Soloveitchik was an incredible scholar in the times of the Tzemach Tzedek and the Rebbe Marash. When he was a young man, he got a new job to be a Rav. And in those days, a new elected rabbi would get up in his first Shabbos in the new town, and he was expected to pull out of his pocket some major kula, some big leniency. He had to pull out a big leniency to show his power of paskening. And the first Shabbos in the new town, the shul is packed. Everyone came to see the budding new scholar. And what's going to be the big leniency? And the place was packed, and he gets up to speak, and it's quiet. You can hear a pin drop. And he says, after studying the topic for many years and studying the background and all the opinions, I feel fairly confident. If somebody would like to fast over Rosh Hashanah, I can give you a loophole for that. That was his big leniency. Anyhow, both opinions, whether you can or can't fast, are brought in Shulchan Aruch, and we had a whole shir about it last year, a long shir, about a big contradiction between what Rabbi Yosef Kara writes in the Shulchan Aruch versus what he wrote in the Magid Meisharim in that Sefer, and we discussed a lot of history, if it was his or not his. You would have liked it. Anyhow, that's last year. But it's going to come up again, albeit briefly. But primarily and chiefly, we're going to open with 3 debates between the Rambam and the Raavad in the laws of Rosh Hashanah. It's going to take us a while just to get through them. But once we see the 3 of them, then Amir Hashem will put on the glasses of Reb Sadya Gaon, and we'll see a fascinating pattern between the Rambam statements and the Raavad. So we begin. Number one says the Rambam, Hatkiyas einon ma'akfis es habrochas. Musaf on Rosh Hashanah. We blow Shofar and we also say all the brachas. The Malchias, the Psukim representing the Eibishter being a king. The Zichroinus, Psukim demonstrating the Eibishter should remember us for the positive. Not like Yankel, the 95-year-old fellow, who on Yom Kippur didn't come to shul. On the Rav, between Musaf and Mincha, he goes for a walk. He goes to the park and he sees old Yankel's in the park. He says, Yankel, you're in town, you didn't come to shul? So Yankel says, Rabbi, all my friends passed away 15 years ago. The last thing I want to do is remind God I'm still around.
That's great.
Anyhow, and then there's a psukim of shofars. So there is a brisa in Masechta Rosh Hashanah, it's not on the sheet, but there's a brisa that says that the brachas of Musaf of Rosh Hashanah and the tkiyas that we blow.
I'm going to go down and come back.
No problem, you have to are ma'ak of each other. You can't have, if you're missing some, you can't have all of it. If you're missing some, the whole thing's out. Now what does that mean? So the Rambam and the Raavad have a debate. The Rambam means the tekiyas on their own, we have to blow a tekiya, a shvarim and a trua. If you don't know how to do the tekiya, you can't blow the shvarim and the trua. It's worthless. Within the tekiyas, if you don't have one, the whole thing's out. So to the brachas, there are three brachas. There's Malchias, there's Zichroinus, the psukim of Hashem remembering, and the psukim about shofars. If your machzer is missing, all the Zichroinus, and you can't say the shofars and the Malchias. The Rambam learns the tekiyas on their own within themselves is a full package. One without the other is no good, and so to the brachas on their own. But if you have all the brachas, you don't have a shofar, you can still make the brachas.
Which brachas?
Of Musaf of Rosh Hashanah. The is Malchias, Zichroinus, the Musaf of Rosh Hashanah. Yeah, Shemana Esrei, right. The Musaf of Rosh Hashanah, you have the three brachas in the beginning, Avos, Nato Gibor, Nato Kodesh, and you have Moedim at the end, and all in between. It's very long, but it's really only three brachas. It goes forever and ever, but it's only three brachas. Lots of psukim inside. Anyhow, the Rambam holds the tkiyas einon ma'akvis es. If you don't have a shofar, you can still daven musaf. So too says the Rambam, v'habrachas einon ma'akvis satkiyas. If you don't have a machzer, but you have a shofar, you could blow shofar. The brisa says that if you're missing part of the deal, the whole deal's over. That's within the tekiyas themselves. If you don't know the shvarim or the trua, your tekiya is worthless. And so too within the brachas, if you're missing one, if your machzor is missing a few pages, you don't have malchias, then you can't just make zichroinus and shofars. But if you have, but each package is its own package. If you have your machzor and no shofar, good. If you have a shofar and no machzor, also good. The Raavad disagrees and says no. Look at the Raavad, right in number 1, Hasagas HaRaavad, the critique of the Raavad, and we'll get to his biography soon. The Raavad quotes the words of the Rambam, and then you have the one line at the end, where number 1, we're in the Raavad's critique. Hasagas means the critique of the Raavad. Aleph is Omer Avram, said Avram, that was his name. No, Avol Shal Rosh Hashanah, Ma'ak V'zu Ezu. On Rosh Hashanah, the brachas and the tkiyas do hold each other back. According to the Raavad, if you don't have a shofar, you can't daven musaf. And so too, if you don't have a machzer, then it's a problem with the tkiyas. That's the rest. So the Raavad holds both packages are intertwined.
What does it mean? Avos or Rosh Hashanah? What was the Rambam talking about?
No, because it's quoting from a Gemara. The brisa there speaks about some other times when we also have brachas and like on a fast day. The brisa speaks about on a fast day they would also blow shofars and also make brachas, and there definitely they're independent.
But here he's saying tekiyas ain't.
The brisa though there says that on a fast day the brachas and the tekiyas, everything's interdependent, but Rosh Hashanah is different. The Rambam and the Raavad disagree what the pshat and the brisa is. The Rambam holds that on Rosh Hashanah there's a chumrah. What is the chumrah? That all the brachas are one package. If you're missing one, they're all gone. On a fast day, it's not like that. You can have one bracha without the other. So to the Tkiyas on a fast day, whatever you know, you're good. Rosh Hashanah, it's on the Masechta Tainus said when there's no
Water.
fast days because of lack of rain. Right. Then we don't do this these days. But what?
There's a shofar.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Right. No, not the fast that we do. What?
The Raavad.
We'll get to the whole. As soon as we get to the top of the next page, we will explore his personality.
Is this
He was older than the Rambam. Pardon me, about 14 years older than the Rambam. But we'll get to his biography soon. Now, so again, that's the debate, right? So I hope I'm not making it completely unclear.
Raavad one package, everything.
The Raavad says that the difference of the Avos Rosh Hashanah is in contrast to a
No
fast day.
mitzvahim, no nothing. The guys, you can't just blow
So according to the Raavad, though, there's two sets of tkiyas. It's what we do before Musaf and what we do during Musaf. It could be he's only talking about the Musaf tkiyas. If you don't have a machzer, then you're not doing Musaf, so then those tkiyas would be nothing.
Is that what you're
Right.
saying?
L'chayra.
Not mitzvahs. Here, shofar.
Well, it's the extension. It's the extension of tkiyas. You know, to say that there's no mitzvah of tkiyah at all is a problem because the mitzvah of tkiyah is a mitzvah min HaTorah, and the brachas are only the rabbanon. Since when, if you aren't able to make a bracha, do you lose out a mitzvah min HaTorah? We never say that.
You're just saying
What?
You're just saying the musaf case now.
Yeah, l'chayra. To say it's the entire tkiyas would be very difficult to say that. Now, in many of the old Rambams, this line of the Raavad wasn't even there. And that's why many of the commentaries on the Rambam don't even discuss this debate. So if you look at number 2, you have the Lecha Mishnah. The Lecha Mishnah was a great Sephardic scholar in the late 1500s. He lived only about 40 years, young man, in Greece, in Salonika. He's buried there. And he wrote a beautiful commentary on the Rambam. And look what he writes in number 2. He quotes the words of the Rambam, the tkiyas do not hold back the brachas. Right, if you don't have a shofar, you can still daven musaf. Says the Lecha Mishnah. Avram was his name. Biton was his last name. Matzasi b'ktsas sfarim. I found in some versions, hasaga ksuvakan, that there's a critique of the Raavad over here. And what is it? Amar Avram. Avol shel Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is different than a fast. In Rosh Hashanah, ma'ak v'zu the brachas and the tkiyas is one package deal. You can't have some without the other. Veneer, it seems to me, taimoi. Why does the Raavad say that? Mishum de mefarish kapirish Rashi. The Raavad is not the first one to say this radical statement, if we can say that. It's Rashi. Rashi says it. Habraisa. Rashi explains the Braisa the same way. The Ka'amr, the Braisa says tkiyas u'brachas ma'akvis. The Braisa says in Rosh Hashanah the tkiyas and brachas hold each other back. So Rashi learns it means each one. If you don't have the tkiyas, the brachas are out. The musaf is out. If you don't have the musaf, the tkiyas are out. The ritzona loymar. Rashi learns the Braisa to mean habrachas hold back the tkiyas and tkiyas lebrachas, and that's how the Raavad learns too. Says the Lecha Mishnah, Ukvar hiksha pirzel rosh sal b'psachav. If you look at the Rosh in the back of Masechta Rosh Hashanah, the Rosh already quotes Rashi's pshat, and he already has big problems, and he throws it out. The Chain Haranzal, the Ran is a big kasha. Doichkoi pushes out Ayin Sham, because the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah discusses if somebody has a choice to daven in one of two cities. In one city they have a shofar, but there's no machzerim over there. There's no musaf over there. The other place has musaf, but there's no shofar. So the Gemara says, where do you go? Shofar. Shofar is doiraisa, and the musaf is drabanan. And the Gemara says a bigger chiddush. Even if the place that has a shofar, it's only 50-50 if they have a shofar.
The other place for sure has the mouth.
Exactly. The one place for sure has no musaf, maybe has a shofar. The other place for sure has musaf, but no shofar. The Gemara says you should go to the place that maybe has a shofar because a sofik on a doiraisa is worth more than a certain rabbanon. So the Ran and the Rosh ask on Rashi, wait a second.
How does this fit?
But what does it even mean to go to a place which has brachas without shofar? According to them, the brachas are out completely. And according to the option you mentioned, maybe the other place, its tkiyos are out completely. Anyhow, that's the shah. Whatever Rashi will answer is not our discussion right now. But says the Lecha Mishnah, the Raavad's not alone. But he does say that this critique of the Raavad was only found in certain manuscripts. Most of them didn't have it. Says the Lechem Mishnah, Ulekach Ormu, therefore the Rosh and the Ran, they both say the Ikar HaPirish B'Divrei Rabbeinu, the Ikar HaPirish, there probably should be a Chof, K'Divrei Rabbeinu, like the Rambam, Da Tkiyas Ma'ak V'Zu, that the Tkiyas are one package within themselves. If you don't have the truer, then the Tkiyas out. We're number 2, Rabbi Teitelbaum. Do you have 2 of the same sheets? No, don't. Okay. We're number 2. And ubrachas zu, and the brachas within each other. Alva brachas l'tkiyas? No, loy, the Rosh and the Ran hold like the Rambam that the brachas are separate from the tkiyas. Yeah, within each one they're a package deal, but between the two of them they're non-related. Yeah. Rashi and the Raavad says no. Right, pretty straightforward debate. I will tell you the Rebbe has a big sikha about this, a chelik lamed daled of Lekutei Sichos, and the Rebbe has incredible stuff over there. That's one debate.
What's the Rebbe say?
A lot of stuff. I can't tell you one thing. There's a lot. No. There's one. Hello. There's one idea that I'll quote later. It was actually an idea that came to me, and then I saw that the Rebbe already says it. But yeah, we'll discuss it later. Anyhow, number 3, we move on to another debate between the Rambam and the Raavad. Shofar hagozel, a stolen shofar. Not that anyone should get any ideas, but imagine like if you steal somebody's matzah, okay, you have a chiv to return it. When you eat the matzah, the act of eating is a further act of theft, because as you eat the matzah, you now can't return the matzah. Now you pay money. So you stole it. That was one act. The eating is another act. So that for sure you can't be yaitz. It's mamish. It's a mitzvah, which is as you're doing the mitzvah, you're doing an act of stealing. Let's say you steal someone's lulav though. You did an act of stealing. Okay, now you're going to shake it, and you're going to give it back. While you're shaking it, you're not really stealing it again. You stole it before. You'll still give it back after. Nonetheless, we would apply the law of mitzvah haba ba'aveira even by a stolen lulav and esrog. Why? Because even though while you're shaking you're not stealing, but it came through theft, it's a mitzvah haba ba'aveira. Sure. A mitzvah which comes through an aveira doesn't work. Many Rishonim hold, I'll just tell you, that a mitzvah which comes through an aveira is only invalid rabbinically. Tosfos holds in Sukkah it's only a rabbinic disqualification. According to Tosfos Minat Torah, it's still a good mitzvah. Still a good mitzvah.
Then you should. Doing a special thing, it has to be lachem.
Oh, so that's Tosfos' kasha. Why do I need lachem by lulav and esrog? If it's stolen anyways, it's a problem because mitzvah ba ba'avera. And to Tosfos, that would only be a rabbinic disqualification. Now that it says lachem, it's a biblical problem. Fine. What about a stolen shofar? Steal the shofar. Like no one ever steals. I've never met anyone that's ever stolen. It's just long-term borrowing, right? You know.
It's like a little bit of soup, no?
So by shofar, there's a big statement of the Rambam in number 3. Says the Rambam, shofar hagozel shetak haboy. If the shofar was stolen and you blew it, yotz, it works. It's different than a lulav. You know why? Because the Rambam holds the mitzvah is not to blow the shofar, it's to hear the sound that comes from the shofar. A year ago, we had a shir on a Sunday morning, all about this, pilpul about this, if the mitzvah is to blow it to hear. Let me just explain. Rabbeinu Tam says very clearly, the mitzvah of shofar is just to blow the sounds. So then everyone should blow? No. If you hear someone else blow, it's like you blew. An example, Megillah. Is the mitzvah to hear Megillah or to read Megillah?
Here.
What's the Brahma Nusach HaBracha? Al Mikra Megillah. So what's the pshat? The mitzvah is to read Megillah. But when you hear the Baal Koreh, Shemei Koreh, it's like you read. So Rabbeinu Tam says shofar is the same thing. Really the mitzvah is to blow. You hear the Baal Tekeh blow, it's like you blew. So
What about the bracha lishmaya kol shofar?
that's our nusach, because we go like the Rambam. The Rambam says in a letter, he writes very clear, blowing a shofar is like building a sukkah. When you build a sukkah, you're building the item with which you will do the mitzvah. You build it, and then you walk in. What?
You know why?
Yeah, why?
Kias is 100. Schach in Gematria is also 100.
Oh, beautiful. Look at that, beautiful. So the Rambam says when you blow the shofar, you know what you're doing? You're just creating the sound. That sound is like the sukkah. That sound is the mitzvah item. And then you have to listen to the sound. That listening to the sounds like sitting in the sukkah. Blowing the shofar is just creating, it's just a preparatory stage. So therefore the Rambam says, if the mitzvah was to blow shofar, then if it's stolen, it's a problem. It'll be like a stolen lulav. Because if the mitzvah was to blow, then that means the shofar is the item of the mitzvah. It's the chefts of the mitzvah. If it's stolen, it'll be just like a stolen lulav and esrog. Big problem. But says the Rambam, no, ein ha-mitzvah ele b'shmiyas hakol. The mitzvah is only to hear. Afal pi shaloi noga boi v'loi higbiya hashemeya. Even if you don't touch it and don't lift it up, it's the mitzvah is to listen to the voice of the shofar. It happens to be that the voice has to come out of the shofar, but the essence of the mitzvah is not connected to the actual shofar. Says Rav, ein b'kol din gezel. What you're getting from the item is not, which is the noise, is not something that can be stolen. So the Rambam says, you know why shofar is different than all other items? Because the item of the mitzvah is not the real chefts of the mitzvah. It just helps. It's like stealing a hammer and making a sukkah, right? And then you sit in the sukkah. It's fine. Comes the Raavad, and he says, Al Omar Avram.
Sit in a stolen sukkah?
So it depends. What did you steal? There's a whole simmer shulchan aruch. Did you build it in the street and you're stealing the ground? Did you steal someone's schach? Did you steal the walls? Did you steal wood and make walls? It all depends on. There's a whole simon special for ganovim to know when it works and when it doesn't work. And a ganze simon
You're not allowed to steal the sukkah, then you're not allowed to steal the shofar.
If your friend has a sukkah and you go in there and you just, what are you stealing? What are you stealing?
Like the Maisa with the guy was
No, there's a whole discussion. Even if you go in and there's no room there and you take the host and you throw him out and you sit there, you can also be yours. What?
the Maisa with the guy sitting in front of the restaurant smelling.
But that would be compared to. That would
The guy wanted to charge him for you're sitting outside, you're enjoying the food. So the rabbi, so he went to the Rav, and the Rav said, "Give me over 100 ruble." And he shook it in front of the guy. He said, "You hear the money."
Yeah, exactly.
That would be compared to trying to steal the sound that someone's blowing. Here you're stealing the shofar and then you're blowing with that instrument the sound. It's not like you're sitting in Rosh Hashanah listening to
It's
a stolen
according to the right. It's like stealing somebody's tools to build a sukkah.
Yeah.
The shofar is not the schach. The sound is the schach. That's the Rambam's own mashal he gives in the. Now, there's lots of problems out, and that's what we had a whole shir last year about. And if you remember, good. If you don't remember, also good, because then I can give it again. Now, says the Raavad number 3, Aleph Aleph Amar Avram, Vafilu yeh boy din gezel. He says, what? Even if it would be considered stealing the shofar, it would still work. Because Yom Trua Yeh Lochem Mikol Mokem Hachi Isa B'Yerushalmi. The Yerushalmi says that since the Torah says Yom Trua Yeh Lochem, the word Lochem is strange. To say, Yom Trua Yeh Lochem means that as long as you blow the shofar, as long as there's a Trua, it's coming to add cases you wouldn't have think worked. For example, a stolen shofar. And he's quoting this from the Yerushalmi. And the shaila is, why does the Raavad say that? Is the Raavad arguing? No, he's saying the Rambam's right, and I don't need the Rambam's reason. The Raavad is, the real estate in the Raavad's critique is high demand. The Raavad doesn't write most of what he thinks. In fact, we have many halachas on the Rambam the Raavad doesn't argue on, and other svarim of the Raavad he tells us his opinion. But he didn't reveal it when he argued on the Rambam. He was very careful about what he wrote and what he didn't write. If he's not arguing, what's he doing? By the way, the Yerushalmi gives another reason. Shkaya. There are so many times, tens and tens of times, where the Rambam gives a reason for halach, where the Rambam himself made up the reason. And he doesn't quote the Gemara's reason, because his reason he felt was more simple. And the Raavad never critiques and says, well, look in the Gemara and you'll see it. If he doesn't say that. So what does he want over here? That's question. This is the second debate. Okay, now we come to the third debate. What type of shofar do we use on Rosh Hashanah? There's many animals. One thing for sure, it has to be a kosher animal. There's a rule, anything used for a mitzvah has to come from a kosher animal. Laman tiyeh Torah Hashem beficha, the pasuk and then the boy Torah should be in your mouth. It can only be made of stuff that you could eat, you could put in your mouth. Say for Torah, tefillin, mezuzahs, the parchment has to come from a kosher animal. Doesn't have to be shechted, but a kosher animal. The ink has to be kosher, etc. So a shofar has to come from a kosher animal. Fine, but there's many kosher animals that have horns. So look at number 4. Number 4 and 5 are a Mishnah in Masechta Rosh Hashanah. And the Mishnah quotes a debate between the Tana Kama, the first opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. The first opinion says, Shofar shel Rosh Hashanah, this is number 4, shel Ya'al Pashut. The Shofar Rosh Hashanah should come from a Ya'al, which is a wild goat. So it's a chaya, it's a non-domesticated animal, but it's kosher, it's from the goat family. Pashut means that the horns are straight. The horns are straight, not curved. And that's what you're supposed to aim for. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer, next line, number 5. This is I took out the middle of the Mishnah. It's not relevant. Rabbi Yehuda says, B'Rosh Hashanah, no. Toikin b'shel scharm. You have to use the horn of a zocher, which means a ram. Ram's horns are bent, curved, big time. So the Tana Kama says from the wild goat, which is straight, and Rabbi Yehuda says shel scharim of rams, which are bent. But then he says ubeyovelus. We know that on Yom Kippur of the Yovel year, that was a very special day because after Yom Kippur they would blow the shofar, and all the avodim who had been in servitude, either within 6 years or they were nirtzis, they had been there for many years, and had their ear pierced, they all go home. All land returns back to its original owners, and that was all set into motion by a big blast. Says Rabbi Yehuda, that b'shel ya'elim. What they do in Yovel in the 50th year, on Yom Kippur, that takir, and that, by the way, every Yom Kippur we blow a shofar at the end of Yom Kippur, l'zeicher what used to be once every 50 years on Yom Kippur. There Rabbi Yehuda agrees that you should use a ya'el, a wild goat, but not Rosh Hashanah. So number 6 is the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah. Says, "B'maika miflagi." What's the debate? Mar Sovar, the Tanakama, the first opinion says on the Rosh Hashanah, Kama de Kayif inish daite tfei ma'ali. No, I'm sorry. This is Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda, Kama de Kayif inish daite. The more a person bends his mind, tfei ma'ali, the better. You know why you have the curved shofar according to Rabbi Yehuda in Rosh Hashanah? Because that represents the mindset of a person. You're meant to be broken, curved over. Ubeyom HaKippurim, why does Rabbi Yehuda agree on Yom Kippur of Yovel you have a straight? Kamad Pashat inish daite, the more straight your mind is, tfei mali, the better. It represents freedom. What?
Of then it's better.
Yeah. So this is Rabbi Yehuda. On Yom Kippur, on the Yovel year, when there's freedom, no one's broken, it's freedom. So for that you have a Pashat, you have a straightforward mindset. So that's represented by the straight shofar. Rosh Hashanah is different. Umar Sover, the Tanakama says no. But Rosh Hashanah you need a straight shofar. Kama de Pashat inish daite tfei. Rosh Hashanah fakert. The more simple, the more straight your mindset is Rosh Hashanah, the better. Ubetainus. Now the Tanakama also spoke about what do you do on a fast day because of rain when we say you blow tekiyas. There the Tanakama agrees you need a curved shofar. Kamod the kayif inish daite tfeim, the better, the more curved your mind is, the better. On a tainus you're broken, it's a brach and you're broken. So we have over here a big debate between Rabbi Yehuda and Chachamim. The Chachamim, the first opinion says in Rosh Hashanah, there's no complications. You should have a simple, clear mindset represented by the straightforward shofar. Rabbi Yehuda says no, in Rosh Hashanah you got to be curved, bent over, broken. So we have to understand what this means, but this is not yet a debate of the Rambam and the Raavad. We'll get there in a moment. Look in number 7. It's another Mishnah Masechta Rosh Hashanah. Kol ha-shofars ksherim. All shofars are kosher. Chutz mishel par, except for a cow. A cow or an ox you b'chlal can't use at all. Why? Mipnei shehu keren. Because an ox and a cow, their horn is called a keren, not a shofar. So Amar Rabbi Yossi responds, what? V'haloi kol ha-shofars nikru keren. Rabbi Yossi says, you're telling me a cow and an ox is called a keren, A horn, every shofar is called a keren. Shener b'mshoich b'keren ayah pasuk in Yeshua. Yovel refers to any shofar, and we call it a horn. So if every shofar is called a keren, so then what's the big deal that a cow and an ox are called a keren? It should be good. So the Gemara says, Shapri Kar Rabbi Yossi zogt good. What do the Chum respond? We're in number 7, the 4th line. The Rabbanan say, no, big difference. Kol ha-shofars, all shofars have 2 names. Ikru shofar, are they called shofar, and they're called keren. But a para, a cow, is called keren, shofar lo yikri, but not a shofar. So the Chachamim, and we paskin like them, say you cannot use a cow or an ox, even though it's kosher, because in Torah it's called a keren, not a shofar. The ones which are good throughout Tanakh have both names. Okay? So what are we left with?
What's the pasuk show you?
The pasuk, okay, there's a bit of a dechsiv. B'char shoyrei hadar loy. It's talking about Yosef, right? So he's compared to an ox. The karnei re'em karnov, and he's an ox, but his horns are like the horns of a re'em. So the ox is called a keren, but it's more than that. It's more than that. When we see number 8, you'll see more. Comes Taisus over there, chutz mishal para, besides for a cow. Says Taisus, there's more things. Ha like tani nami chutz mishal re'em. A re'em is a kosher animal, but you can't use the shofar. Because shel re'em nami ikri keren, dichsiv karne re'em karnav, that same pasuk says that the re'em is called a keren, so it's no good. So why doesn't the Mishnah disqualify it? Says Taisus in the last line, V'shema einom chalulim ve'einom ru'uyim l'shofar. A shofar has to be hollow. There are certain animals that the horn is one big bone. Those are completely, they're b'chlal not a shofar. A shofar has to be somewhat hollow. So what Taisus is saying is like this. A treif animal is out because it's treif. The re'em is out because it's not a shofar. Shofar means hollow. It has to be somewhat hollow inside. So any animal which is not hollow inside is out. Now the cow and the ox are compared to the re'em, because b'chor shoyroi, Yosef is compared to an ox, and then we say the horns are like that of the re'em. Just like the re'em's horns are out, so too the cow and the ox. So far, hold on. What? I know, but relatively, right. So far, treifa animals are out. Anything which is a complete hard bone is out, and so too the cow and the ox are out because they're compared to the re'em. So what do we have left? We have left, if it's a kosher animal, and the horn is relatively hollow, it's not one big bone, then it's good. That's what the Mishnah says in number 7, it's good. So that would mean a ram or the wild goat. So what's the debate of number 4 and number 5? It sounds like the Tanakam and Rabbi Yehuda would agree, really, the wild goat and the ram, it all works. The Shaz l'chatchila, what should you use? One said l'chatchila, you should have the bent one, that's Rabbi Yehuda, and the Tanakam said l'chatchila should be straight. Hold on. Now we come to number 10. Number 10 is a Rambam. Okay, actually, go to number 9 for a second. Number 9. This is number 9, a well-known statement in Gemara Rosh Hashanah. It's actually 2 statements, but they're together, so it's in one piece. Hashem tells us, "Ve'imru lefonai b'Rosh Hashanah." Say in front of me in Rosh Hashanah. Say Malchias, say Zichronis, say Shofars. In Musaf we say Psukim, all about these 3 things. Hashem should be king, Hashem should remember us, and Hashem should listen to the Shofar. Malchias, why did Hashem want us to speak about His kingship? Kedei shetamlichuni aleichem, that we should accept His sovereignty upon us, make Him king upon us. Zichronis, why do we say Zichronis? This is the Gemara speaking on behalf of God. Kedei sheyal zichronechem afan l'teva, that we should ascend a good memory in front of God. Ubameh, how do you do that b'shofar? Okay, we'll come back to this line later, but then it's Amar Rabbi Yevo, Lama toikin b'shofar shel ayil. Rabbi Yevo is an Amoira, first generation Amoraim. He says, why do we use a shofar of a ram? Why do we use it? It's not so pashut. In number 4, the Chachamim hold you actually use a straight thing from the wild goats. It's because Rabbi Yevo paskins like Rabbi Yehuda in number 5. Rabbi Yehuda says you have to use that of a ram. So what's Rabbi Yevo asking though? We saw in number 6 why Rabbi Yehuda says a ram. Because he wants it to be bent, because he should be broken on Rosh Hashanah. So the Sha'al Rabbi Vo is, but there's other kosher shofars that are bent as well. Why do we dafka use a ram? So for that he says, Amra Kodesh Baruch Hashem says, Tiku lefonai a shofar of a ram, Kedei she'ezku lachem akedas Yitzchak ben Avram. You know what happened by the Akedah? Yitzchak was exchanged for a ram. When we blow with the ram, Umal ani aleichem, I consider it, says Hashem, Ki'ilu ikadetem atzchem, as if you offered yourself up in front of me. By the way, the word Akedah actually means the binding. The binding of is a mamish insignificant detail of the story, right? The binding was nothing. Why do we call it the Akedah? After the binding, it's very trivial. And the truth is, why Taka did Avram have to bind Yitzchak? If Yitzchak didn't want to be there, he could have run away. He was 37 years old, according to Rashi. He chose to be there. Why is Avram binding him? So there's a Medrash Rabbah that says, Yitzchak told his father, Tata, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to be shechted, but I'm worried that when you're going to bring your hand down with the knife, I'm going to flinch. My body's going to flinch, and then I'm going to be a bad carbon. Because the shchita won't be a good shchita. Please tie me down so my body doesn't flinch. It's a pretty scary medrash. So it says that's why we refer to it as the Akedah, because that shows how that's the ultimate Mesiras Nefesh of Yitzchak. And that's why in Rosh Hashanah we speak about the Akedah and Shemoneh Esrei, and we speak to Hashem, we call it the Akedah. We tell the Eibishter we're all like Yitzchak. We all want to do your will, but you know what happens? The body flinches. That's where Averas come from. The body flinches, that's the way we're wired.
Don't try it at home.
Tell him, tie us down.
Let us fly.
It's like when you could see a Lepler, the chassid of the Alter Rebbe, he once ran into the Alter Rebbe's room and he said, Rebbe, hak me up the linke side, get rid of the left side of my heart. I've had enough of it. And from then on, he was a tzaddik. And that's why the Chassidim didn't hold very highly of his avodah. They said it was a gift. But then he excelled in his haskalah. He worked very hard for his haskalah, for understanding. There's two things. Alter Rebbe gave him a gift for his avodah, but for his understanding of Chassidus, he toiled very hard. And that was something very special. In fact, the Mittler Rebbe wrote a special sefer for him. Very difficult sefer. Imrei Bina, just for him. Years later, that Tzemach Tzedek was learning the sefer.
Right.
And he asked Yekosiel Lepler for pshat in something. So the Tzemach Tzedek's son asked him, Tata, you're the Rebbe, you have to ask Kusha Lepler pshat in Imrei Bina. The Tzemach Tzedek said, I want to see how human intellect understands that concept. Anyhow.
Great answer.
Yeah. Well.
Wow.
Okay.
Is this?
So far what we have is like this. A treifa animal you can't use the shofar because it's not kosher. Even a kosher animal, shofar means it has to be somewhat hollow, can't be a complete bone. So that gets rid of a number of animals as well. The cow and the ox are out because they're compared to re'aim, which is one bone, and therefore they're out too. But any other kosher animal should work. Curved or straight. The Tanakama Dafka wants straight. Rabbi Yehuda wants curved because that's the mood of Rosh Hashanah. But then there's an addition. Even from amongst the curved kosher ones, you Dafka want the ram because of Akedas Yitzchak. So this takes us to number 11, which is a statement of the Torah. And we're going. Hello, we're making good headway over here. We're going good. So number 11. This is a statement of the Torah in the laws of Rosh Hashanah, where he speaks about what type of horn you could use. So he says in the words leading up to this that the cow and the ox are out. Afilu b'di'ever, they're out. If the only thing you have is an ox's horn, you can't use it. It doesn't work. It's nothing. It's like a plastic. Then the Torah says, "V'kosav Ramban, v'hu adin b'karnei roi v'chais." Most animals, even if they're kosher, shem etzem echad, it's one bone. Ve'ein shmam b'loshna kodesh, not called a shofar. Ein nikra shofar. Shofar means a tube. That's what it means. Elo mikarnayim achalulim. There has to be hollow, but it has some zachur, some stuff inside, and you have to get rid of the zichrus inside. And then the shofar is good. For example, lambs, rams, and goats. Kvasim, Elim, and Izim. Alvaroi Vachai says most of them are etzem echad, are one complete bone. They're puzzle just like a cow. But v'chol shar minin, all other kosher animals that are somewhat hollow, like a Ya'el, the wild ox, the Izim or any ox, ksherim b'di'evet. Afilu heim pshutim, even if they're straight and not curved. But lechatchila, we paskin like Rabbi Yehuda, it needs to be curved. But inan she'ekofov, it needs to be curved. Vafilu b'sh, even if it's so a goat. Sometimes a goat's shofar is straight, sometimes it's curved. If you find a good curved horn from a goat, it's good. Umikol makom, the best of the best, mitzvah and amufcher is to get a ram for the Akedah. Oh, so there's a number of levels over here. There are those that don't work at all. There are those that work b'di'evet, if it's a kosher animal and the shofar is somewhat hollow, fine.
Kofov is not those long ones that are.
No. Kofov, no. Kofov just means any, yeah. Just bent. A simple bend.
The ones that we use.
Yeah. The extra long ones are double kofov. And we'll get to those in a moment. But then the Ramban says, but better if it's actually bent, and better than that if it's from a ram. Says the Tur, he finishes off, V'harambam zal kotov, the Rambam writes, Kol ha-shoifers psulim chutz mikeren ha-kvasim. The Rambam says the only thing you could ever use is the horn of a lamb or a ram. V'hakol tosov, everyone attacks the Rambam. So where's the Rambam in number 10? Let's see it inside, and we'll see the Rive is the first one to attack him. Says the Rambam, Mitzvahs eseh shel Torah to hear truas ha-shofer and Rosh Hashanah. As it says, Yom Trua Yilachem Mishum. V'shofer shetoikim, but it says what type of shofar? Whether it's Rosh Hashanah, whether it's Yom Kippur of Yovel, it's the horn ha-kvasim ha-kofuf. It's the horn of a lamb which is bent. V'chol ha-shofers psulin, everything else is out of the question except for the keren of the horn.
Both of the Tanakh and Rabbi Yehuda.
Yeah, no one ever said this.
Wait, the ayil?
Well, the truth is,
What's the ayil?
no, an ayil and kev is the same family, so it's fine. It's fine. It has to be.
No, but he says that the bents.
Right, it's like Rabbi Yehuda, number 5.
Rabbi Yehuda says only.
Rabbi
Yom
Yehuda's.
Kippur.
But with ram is a different.
Oh, you're asking about Yom Kippur, fine. But for Rosh Hashanah, fine. But for Rosh Hashanah, though, for Rosh Hashanah, it sounds like Rabbi Yehuda.
Yeah, but then he disagrees on Yom Kippur.
Okay, fine. It's a good thing that it's not Yovel this year, and we're not.
I'm saying he's holding like
Right. Okay. Look at the Raavad though in number 10. Amar Avram Hifriz Al
Kevis in the
Midaisav.
ayil.
What?
I'm confused. What's the kevis?
No,
What's
so
the
they go together. A lamb and a ram.
ayil? Is that a male and a female? The one we get wool from
The baby
Australia,
and
from New
the
Zealand.
baby and the aisles once it's old.
Yeah?
Once it's old, yeah.
Oh.
Says the Raavad Hifriz Al Midaisav. The Rambam went way overboard over here. Ela mitzvah bekfufen. Yeah, it's better if it's bent. But vim taka b'shal yal, if it was a straight one, you're yaitza.
And that comes from a
Like the Rambam. The Raavad is just like the Ramban, and just like anyone that learns the Gemara, you would come up with the conclusion of the Raavad. I put all the pieces of the puzzle I put on the paper already. I mean, we saw there were certain things. Look at number 7. The Mishnah says only the cow is out. Everything else is good. And then we saw, okay, if it's a full, complete bone, it's also out, fine. But if it's a kosher animal, somewhat hollow, then at least b'di'evet it works. Okay, l'chatchila, you want it to be bent, and even better, you want it to be from a ram. But if it's not from a ram, or if it's not bent, the Rambam to say you're not yotze b'di'evet, says the Raavad, the Rambam was way out of line, way overboard. And you see the Tur in number 11 says the same thing. The last words in number 11 is everyone attacks the Rambam.
The Raavad is
So
not-
these are 3 dinim of the Rambam and the Raavad. Let me just where we're holding is we see 3 debates. Number 1, the Rambam says that Musaf and the Shofar are not connected to each other. The Raavad says, boy, are they? If you don't have one, you can't have the other. The Rambam says if you blow a stolen Shofar is good because the mitzvah is only to hear. And the Raavad says, no, it's for a different reason. And now we have this debate. The Rambam says only from a ram which is bent. The Raavad says no, and if it's straight, but the evidence should work, fine. Who was the Raavad? And then we're going to see the next thing. The Raavad was one of the greatest of all the Rishonim. The Meiri, who was later, the Meiri, whenever he refers to the Raavad, he calls him Gedolei HaMefarshim, the greatest of the commentators.
Nobody uses a gown. Nobody uses a coat one.
Today?
Right?
Yeah, well, even the Raavad is only b'di'evet. Everyone says l'chatchila the ram. So that's what we do. So the Raavad was born in Provence, in Narbonne, 1120. 15 years.
Went to page 2.
Now I'm talking. Now we're floating. We're
Outside
floating.
of the
He was actually 15 years older than the Rambam.
Oh, you're talking about the ram.
18.
Yeah.
Well, the date always used to be the Rambam was born 1135.
We found his Ksav Yad.
All right, the Chidah says it's 4 opinions. Some say 1133, 1135, 1138. There's many opinions.
It's a long delivery. I just
So-
want to make sure that everybody's still awake. That's why I said that.
So the Raavad, besides for being a master in halacha, he was also a master in Kabbalah, and he was considered a chassid, very pious individual, very holy. Even though the way he speaks seems to be very rough, he was very rough in the way he spoke about other people, but his personal life, he was very pious, he was wealthy. He was known to be a big gvir. I don't know exactly the source of his wealth, but like Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi, who it says about him, was extremely wealthy, but Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi never enjoyed any of the pleasures that he had. It just wasn't relevant to him. Well, the Raavad, the same thing. And there's something called actually the tinus of the Raavad. Anybody heard of something called the Raavad's fast? What's the Raavad? Look at number 13. This is Rabbeinu Yoina in his Sefer Yesoid HaTshuva. Rabbeinu Yoina is in the end of the 1100s and then throughout the 1200s. He says, V'chein Amar Harav Rab Avraham Bar David, the Raavad, Shoya Echad Mechasidei Olam, one of the all-time great Chasidim. Hageder Hagadol Hama'ula Hamufla. You know what? The greatest thing someone could do, Menias Hama'acholos, is to hold back on food. But it doesn't just mean to fast. No. V'chein Pirish Dvar. Then he explained what he meant. He says, Al Yazav L'Gamri Melechol Bosav Lishtas Yain. Don't have bread and water a whole week. Don't abstain from flesh and wine. No. Dayecho Mashos Torah. It's the Abisha said you can't go to Burger King, but kosher burgers you can have. So don't add new things. Be'es ma'acholoi. But while you're eating, voidenu toiv lechol, and you want to eat, you have a steak on your plate. You had 2/3 of it, right? And you want the last third. Yaniach mimeno. Don't eat the last third. L'kovid habayra, for the sake of God. Mitavosav. Va'al yochel. Don't eat your whole tithe's worth. V'derech zu timna'enu mechatoi. This path of life will hold you back from ever sinning. V'tazkirenu, and it will constantly remind you the love of God more than fasting once a week. You know why? Because this is constant. Zeh b'chol. This is every time you have a meal. Whenever you eat, whenever you drink, you leave a bit of your tithe for the sake of God. So this is known as the tinus, the fast of the Raavad. Many people speak about it. Now, as you're reading, you hold back.
Is your own thing.
The third is my own. I was giving you,
No.
There's no amount. There's no amount. Right. So I think Rabbi Vadia Yosef was asked about this, and he said, "L'chatchila, when you put the steak on your plate,
Put more.
no, cut. When you load your plate, don't load it full. So you don't end up leaving leftovers and chucking it out. L'chatchila, you put on,
I say
80% of what you
that
wanted.
every
That
You-
doesn't do what he's saying.
No.
Remember.
What it means is like this: you're sitting, you have a platter over here of good flesh, and you want to have 5 pieces. You only take 4, and that piece that you
Not the
left,
same.
you're saying you have to
No,
take
the
it.
way
You have to take it and then chuck it out.
leave it.
Take it and then give it
Not
to
saying
the.
it.
Fine. Okay. Up to interpretation. Anyhow, so this is the famous fast of the Raavad, because this is how the Raavad
tefillin
lived his
Raavad?
life. Yeah, the same tefillin of the Raavad. There were actually 3 Raavads. Just to put this in a proper perspective, there was Raavad number 1, Raavad 2, Raavad 3. This is how the Chidor presents it. They all lived at the same time. The first guy lived in Spain, and he wrote a very important work on history called the Seder HaKabbalah, very important work on history. And he was a big philosopher. He wrote a beautiful work on philosophy that shortly later was eclipsed by the Mer Nevuchim, so nobody copied it, and it was called Rosh Emunah Rama, the exalted belief. He ended up never getting killed, Al Kiddush Hashem. That's the first guy. His name was Avraham ibn Daud. Ibn Daud, the Spanish twist on the Reish Aleph Beis Daled, Reb Avram Ibn Daud. The second Raavad is Avram the Av Bezdin, and he's known as the Sefer Ha'eshko. Okay? And his son-in-law is the third Raavad, the famous Raavad, who we're talking about over here. He happened to be a son-in-law of the second one. And the third one is the famous one, the one that has the tefillin, the one that always argues on the Rambam. He's Avram ben David. So his father-in-law was Avram ben Yitzchak, but he was called Raavad because of Avram Av Bezdin. He got the Av Bezdin. Anyhow, so the Raavad, the third that we're learning about over here, he was huge in Nigla, but also Kabbalah, because we have in number 12, I've quoted this before, this is from Menachem Nikanti, one of the great Italian Kabbalists about 800 years ago. And he says like this, what I quoted here, he says, is number 12, is a Das HaChosid Reb Yitzchak, the famous Kabbalist Reb Yitzchak the blind, Reb Yitzchak Saginor, the blind one, Ben Harav Zal, the son of the Raavad, Shoya Nigla Loy Eliyahu Zal. Right, the Raavad had a son called Reb Yitzchak Saginor, Reb Yitzchak the blind, who was a major Kabbalist. In fact, the Chassam Sofer explains somewhere that there's the eyes of the mind and the eyes of the body. The weaker the eyes of the body, the stronger the eyes of the mind. He says when you go blind completely, that's when your mind opens up. He says a baby, the Gemara says in Niddah, the baby, while a fetus in utero, can see across the world, whatever that means. But the Chassam Sofer says why? Because the physical eyes don't work. The moment the baby exits the womb, opens its eyes, boom. Once you start to see, your mind closes up. So some say so too here. It's interesting how one of the greatest Kabbalists, all-time Kabbalists, was known as Reb Yitzchak the blind.
He was born blind or became?
I don't know, but we do. Even after he was blind, he would be able to. He would know people in front of him. He would know details of how the people in front of him look. I mean, he had a different sense. Listen, he was a great Kabbalist, and look what the Rikanti says: Shoya Nigla Loy Eliyahu Zal. Eliyahu used to appear to this Reb Yitzchak the blind. Continues to the Rikanti, Ki Nigla Reb David. First Eliyahu would come to Reb David, which is the Raavad's father. Av Bezdin.
Father-in-law.
No, that was Avram Av Bezdin.
Oh.
The father, the Raavad's father was called David Av Bezdin.
Oh.
What are the chances? What is there's also I don't know. But then he says V'lamad loy chachmas HaKabbalah. Eliyahu taught him Kabbalah. Umasra lebenoy, and then Reb David gave it over to his son the Raavad. The Gam loy nigla, and Eliyahu came to the Raavad as well.
This is a grandson.
No. There was Reb David, the Raavad's father, Avram ben David. Eliyahu came to the Raavad's father. The Raavad's father then taught everything to his son, the Raavad, plus Eliyahu came to the Raavad.
And what does Reb Yitzchak do?
And then the Raavad Mosra, he gave it to his son, Reb Yitzchak Saginor. Oh, here he says, he was blind from birth. Loy Romel, the Gam Loy Nigla, Eliyahu came to him too. And then Reb Yitzchak Mosri gave it to his two students, Reb Ezra and Reb Uzriel, and they both taught the Ramban Kabbalah. So that's the link.
Wasn't he on the shir with the Kabbalists?
Yeah.
Spain?
Yeah. I had this thing over there as well. So Eliyahu came to the Raavad's father. The Raavad's father taught him, and Rabbi Eliyahu came too. And then the Rabbi Yitzchak as well. Now, the Raavad, a number of places on the Rambam, he says, how do I know certain things? Soid Hashem Lireyav, secrets of Hashem as to those that fear Him. In one place, the Raavad says, how do I know this? Ruach HaKodesh appeared in our base Medrash and told us that it's so. So, the Maharam ben Chaviv, Moshe Chaviv, was a great Sfardish Posek in Eretz Yisrael in the 1600s. And he says, you can't paskin based on Ruach HaKodesh. We had a shir not too long ago. And he says, the Raavad is just being poetic. He says the Raavad is passing based on his understanding. He was so sure, and his pshat made so much sense to him. He said, this is straight from heaven. But the Chidah quotes Rav Moshe Chaviv, and he said, with all due respect, That's not how the Kabbalists understand it. And the Chidah quotes a number of sources who understand the Ravid's comments to be literal. He paskened the way he paskened because Eliyahu Hanavi told him. Who said he learned from Eliyahu? Number 12. The Rekanti testifies. And he was, just after him. So the Ravid was a Baal Kabbalah. He has Eliyahu appearing to him. He met, he's Iskafia. He's separated himself from Olam Hazeh. And yet, you would think his this old Kabbalist, a frail person, barely eats, barely sleeps, is learning Kabbalah. But when the Rambam came out with the Sefer, this guy all of a sudden is like a bocher with his guns blazing. And throughout the Rambam's work, he has his critique, and sometimes he compliments what the Rambam says and says, yeah, it's true. Most of the time he argues, and when he argues, he often uses very sharp terminology. The Rambam mixed everything up and blah, blah, blah. Very sharp terminology. And people always wondered why the Raavad did that. You see, the Raavad also argues on the Rif, but with lots of respect. The Raavad says, really, the Rif was so great, but, if I disagree, I gotta say.
So what does that mean?
The Rambam went way over, went out of control, went
What's
beyond.
the exact translation?
He went beyond the line, past the line.
And cross the line.
Yeah, crossed the line. Too extreme. He was too extreme, too radical, too extreme. That's not so sharp. The Raavad has much sharper stuff. He writes often the Rambam made a mistake and mixes things in a shibush. I didn't understand them. Blah, blah. Why was he so sharp? So historians and poskim have wondered for hundreds of years why was it like that. The Rameh Mipano, the great Kabbalist Menachem Azariah of Pano, writes in a letter that he thinks it's because the Rambam wrote his Moreh Nevuchim, right? In the Moreh Nevuchim, he quotes so much from Greek philosophy, Arabic philosophy. Now, the Rambam had many reasons why he did that, but many of the Rambam's contemporaries felt that, what's going to happen now? Aristotle now has the Rambam's hechsher, rabbinic supervision, and it may lead many people deeper into philosophy. It says that Rameh Mipano, that's what irked the Raavad, and he wrote very sharp on the Rambam, to kind of put him in his place. I'll be careful with my words. Kind of put him in his place, not so much for the Rambam, but so that people in the street shouldn't say, well, if the Rambam quotes Aristotle, it must be kosher. Not so fast. Right? The Rambam says the Rambam made plenty of mistakes.
So he didn't think he made mistakes? He was just doing it for the public?
No. He thought he made a mistake. But why did he write it? Why did he have to write it that way? He didn't have to be so critical. Anyhow, there's a...
Kappa, in his introduction to Mishnah Torah, writes a whole thing saying the Raavad really agreed with the Rambam. He
Yeah, I know. Reb Kapach believes. Yeah, it's very true. Reb Kapach, who's a great scholar, believes that when the Raavad writes his critique on the Rambam, he's not actually expressing his own opinion. He's just telling you should know there's more opinions. He's just presenting other views. I don't know if anybody ever agreed to Reb Kapach. You see that throughout the Sfarim of hundreds of years that people did not understand the Raavad that way. But that's what Reb Kapach felt, and I guess he's entitled to his opinion. Fine. So the Raavad was a very interesting personality, the Raavad. He was dynamic when he had to be, and he was holy and a Kodesh and a Tzaddik when he had to be. He wrote many Sfarim, and they're all quoted till today. There are some who believe whenever the Raavad argues in the Rambam, we should paskin like him. There were some that believed he was greater than the Rambam in learning.
Who?
The Raavad.
Oh, who believes?
Oh, look, I can show you. There's a list of random poskim throughout who said, whenever the Raavad is and the Knesset Hagdoli bring that whenever the Raavad is machmir, we should paskin like him. Of course, if you ask a Sfardi, he would shoot you for saying that. He said, no one's the Rambam is the greatest, and anyhow.
Ask us, same thing.
Probably the same people thinking first.
Fakir, you should know, the Rosh, who was Ashkenazi in roots but spent the latter part of his life in Spain. The Rosh writes, we have a tradition that the Ri and Rabbeinu Tam, two of the Baalei Tosfos in France, were both greater than the Rambam in Chochmah, in wisdom, and in minyan, in numbers or in age, they were older, and therefore if ever one of them argues in the Rambam, we go like them. That's what the Rosh says. Now the Rosh was Ashkenazi. If you ask the Sfardim, they have a different tradition. They say the Rambam was the greatest, but the Ashkenazi tradition was Rabbeinu Tam reigns supreme.
From Moshe to Moshe, the name didn't come from Moshe.
You know why? Because there was no one who looking at Gemara. No one ever had the name Moshe. That the Chidor brings. He says no one was ever called Moshe. No, but the Varti is first of all it was a Sephardic.
That the Rebbe repeated that. Or the
Yeah. It's from 800 years ago. One of the Sephardic Rishonim said it.
So the Rebbe repeated it.
Yeah, because there are certain things that
I think
the
you got to
Rambam.
include the Rebbe in this mix. That this like with the
Hold
Sfardim.
on.
From Moshe to Moshe, the Rebbe didn't go on Clintonian word games of nobody else was named Moshe.
Things aren't black and white. In a certain sense, the Rambam accomplished something that no one else accomplished since the times of Moshe. The Rambam was an expert in all wisdoms. The Rambam did so many accomplishments. But it doesn't mean that in Gemara, the Rambam learned in the Sephardic style, which is you look at each Gemara piece and you master it on its own. Rabbeinu Tam looked at the whole Gemara. The way the Marshal describes it, it was like playing Gaga ball with it. The Marshal says that the Baalei Tosfos took the Gemara, they made it into a ball, and they like a whole night you throw it the ball, throw it this way, throw it that way. Rabbeinu Tam would take 30 Gemaras. When he would look at an issue, he would look at everywhere in Gemara there's even a hint that touches upon the subject, and somehow make all the 30 Gemaras fit together, and through that he created many halachas. You should know the Raavad wasn't a fan of that. The Raavad didn't like the way the Baalei Tosfos learned. He wasn't a fan of anyone. He directed his own path.
By the way, just speaking about the Rambam, I heard today with Rabbi Korf that from Rabbi YY that the Rambam for 8 years was in bed. He was ready to give up
because his brother died.
Because his brother died in the Indian Ocean.
Oh, well, 8 years is a bit much.
He just couldn't pick himself up.
Yeah. He wrote about
he
wrote about it years later. Yeah,
right.
yeah. It's a very sad letter. It's
very
horrible,
sad,
horrible.
It was just like you think of the Rambam. The Rambam's like
the Rambam wrote a letter about the death of his brother.
right.
His brother supported him financially.
His brother was on a business trip in the ship.
The Indian Ocean.
Yeah, and he died, and the Rambam bed sick for a long time. And years later, the Rambam writes. Years later, when he writes about the Rambam, says, "I'm going to die a mourner." Very sad letter. It's,
How old was he when that happened?
Was the brother? I don't know. I don't know the exact age.
He was
When his
young.
brother died, he was young.
A wife and either.
Yeah, for Ari Lefierich, a younger man. Yeah, yeah. It's Pashut a heart-wrenching letter. The Rambam reveals some of his emotions.
Just to keep in mind, we all know that we're going through things, but sometimes when you hear about the Rambam, it's like, oh my gosh.
Right.
Like,
Humanize it.
yeah, just
Right.
a little bit.
I will tell you, just to throw in one more, there's another person the Raavad battled with. He was like Rabbi Yaakov Emden in a way. Searching for the truth and, knocking everyone else down.
The Raavad?
In a certain way, the Raavad attacks the Rambam. He wasn't happy with the Baalei Tosfos, and he argues on the Rif with respect. But what is this? This is a.
Just noticed it?
Yeah, is it on? Is it on? I'm busy screaming. I'm being closer. I don't know what it is. I don't know.
Great.
James.
In the times of the Raavad, in the same part of the world where he lived, he had a contemporary by the name of Zerachia Halevi, the Razor, Reish Zayin He, Zerachia Halevi, who wrote the Baal Hamor, which was a huge commentary arguing on many of the halachas of the Rif, who was over 100 years before. The Baal Hamor wrote his sefer. He was a young man, about 21, and the whole world attacked him. The Rif was the rabbi of all rabbis. He set a code of law, and you're a schnook, 20 years old, you're arguing on him 100 years later. And the Baal Hamor responded that don't judge the age of the wine by how new the barrel is. I may be 20, 21 years old, but that doesn't mean I don't have age wisdom inside of me. Yeah. And the Raavad was very unhappy with him. So the Baal Hamor wrote critique on the Rif. The Raavad came and said, you know what, I'm going to argue on the Rif sometimes too, but with respect, but I'm going to take down the Baal Hamor. And he wrote he wrote very sharp against the Baal Hamor.
Sharper Rambam?
Sometimes sharper, yeah.
So
yeah.
was-
So, and the Baal Hamor in one place writes back against the Raavad, he says, you can say all of your harsh comments all day, and he throws a number of examples. The Raavad would sometimes say, Morid Avram, God of Abraham, how could this guy say this? So the Baal Hamor says, you can scream God of Abraham all day. You could scream. He gives a couple of examples of these harsh one-liners of the Raavad. He says you can scream it all day, but we're not going to listen. We're not going to listen. So the Raavad had a big halachic battle with the Baal Hamor and with the Rambam, you know. So in a way, he's looking for the truth, just like Yaakov Emter. Anyhow. So here's the clincher, though. Join me in number 14. Number 4, Reb Sadya Gaon says there are 10 reasons why we blow shofar in Rosh Hashanah. Reb Sadya Gaon predates all this. Reb Sadya Gaon passes away in 942. He predates all this. The Rambam, the Raavad, by a couple hundred years.
The last of the Gaon?
And famously, he was not even the last. He was towards the end. Yeah, he was about 100 years before the end of the Gaon. And Reb Sadya Gaon gives 10 reasons why we blow shofar.
From 400 to 900?
The Gaonim was about 550 around till about 10. Rav Hai Gaon passed away in 1038, and they consider that the end of the. Although at the same, Rav Hai Gaon lived in Bovel. At the same time as him, there was a Gaon by the name of Rav Chanoich, was in Spain. He got there, a whole story with the 4 captives on a boat. And in the year 1015, Rav Chanoich was in Spain, and they gave him the Ali on Simchas Torah, the Rav. And he got up on this old rickety wooden bimah, and the whole shul, of course, piled on. They wanted to be with the Rav for the Aliyah Simchas Torah. You can imagine there was mashka flying. There was too much weight on the bimah. The whole thing cracked, broke. The Rav fell and cracked his neck. Reb Chanech passed away. So that was the end of the Gaonim in Spain in 1015. And Reb Hai Gaon passed away 1038 in Bavel in Iraq. Anyhow, Reb Sadya Gaon gives 10 reasons of why we blow shofar. Look at the first 2. The first 2 are the main 2. Ha'inyan Harishan, he says the first inyan, this is not his words, this is Rebbe Leo Kitov in Sefer HaTodah, whatever, quoting him. He says Ha'inyan Harishan, the first inyan is Mipnei Shahayoim Tchilas Habri, Rosh Hashanah is the beginning of creation. In it Hashem created the world, he became a king. You know, when you make a king, you have to blow in front of them with trumpets to coronate them, to announce and proclaim this is the beginning of the kingship. V'chein anu, so to us, says Sadya Gaon, we coronate upon ourselves the Eibishter on this very day. Second, he says, is tshuva. Because Rosh Hashanah, the second, he says, is it's the first day, the 10 days of tshuva. And we blow shofar as an alarm clock, as a wake-up call. Lahachris, to announce and as like a warning. No, it's time to get up. You want to do tshuva, and if not, then al yikra tagalas, but don't have complaints. You were warned. And so that's what kings do. Kings, when they warn tchila about their decrees, and afterwards, if someone transgresses, they've no excuse. You were warned. So the shofar is supposed to be a reminder, a wake-up call. Those are the main 2 reasons we blow shofar. Which one is the main reason? Which one is the real reason? Is shofar a wake-up call to remind us to do tshuva, or is shofar crowning the Eibishter? So before we answer that question, we got to see the following. We got to see a shtickle Zohar in number 15. Okay, you ready for some Zohar? Let's see the Zohar. The Zohar wants to know why are there 2 days Rosh Hashanah. Even in Eretz Yisrael, there's 2 days Rosh Hashanah. Even Yerushalayim, 2 days Rosh Hashanah. Different than all other Yom Tovim, there's 1 day. So it says the Zohar, B'yoyimid, right? And whenever Rosh Hashanah falls out on a Thursday in Eretz Yisrael, they go Meshuggah. It's 3 days Yom Tov in a row, right? It's mamash, right? It's mamash, it's a Bahala. Anyhow, B'yoyimid the Rosh Hashanah, on the days of Rosh Hashanah, we're in number 15. Mesaknin Beidina, the court prepares kursai, a chair, Lamalka for the Eibishter. Lameidin Kol Alma, to judge the whole world. And Yidden first. Yisrael Olin Bekadmesa. The Yidden get judged first. Why? Bedina, by judge. Kameh, in front of Hashem. Kamei delay fush because in the beginning the Eibush has lots of rachmanas. As time goes by, he kind of loses patience. In the brackets it says the Yidden go first, Kamei delay fush rugza, before the anger gets too much, but the same idea. The Zohar continues, Tanan, it was taught. There's a pasuk, Mishpat Ama Yisrael, the Eibush judges the Jews, Dvar Yoim B'Yoimai, each day on its day. Says the Zohar, what's this double expression, Yoim B'Yoimai? What's it talking about? What are these 2 days? Rosh Hashanah. Elaheni Treya, these are the 2 days of Rosh Hashanah. But Amai Trein Yoim, and why are there 2 days Rosh Hashanah? All the other Yom Tovim is, even in Eretz Yisrael, is 1 day. Says the Zohar, you know why? Begin the Inun Trei Beidina. Because there are 2 courts. The Mischabron Kechado, that join together as one. There's Dina Ilah, there's there's the supernal judgment from high, the Io Kashi, which is harsh, Dina Kashi, to harsh judgment, and then there's Dina Tata, there's a lower judgment, the Io Rafi, which is soft, Utravayu Mishtachi, and they both extant, they both exist. So there's 2 judgments, there's the harsh and the soft. The harsh is on first day, the soft is on the second day. Says the Zohar, Va'alda lo yodi heni bavloi, the people in Bavel don't know Raza di Yabava v'Yalulusa, that the Shavarim in Aramaic is called Yabava, and the true is called Yalulusa, a cry. Why do we do Tashrat, Tashat, Tarat? Why do we do all 3? So the Gemara says, because we don't know what the true is supposed to. We know Tkiya at the beginning, Tkiya at the end, true in the middle. What's the true supposed to be? Is it supposed to be a true da-da-da-da-da? Is it a shvarim? Or it's both, first shvarim and then trua? It's a suffix. Says the Zohar, the Bavlim got it wrong. The Bavlim think we do it because we're not sure. Says the Zohar, V'lo yadi, the people in Bavel don't know, the travayu itzruchu, both are necessary. Because Yalalusa, the cry of the trua, that's dino takifa, that's the Shavarim is much easier. It takes much more strength. Okay? I'm sorry if my acting wasn't that convincing, but if you think about it, what?
Let's ask
first.
Oh, good question, good point. Yeah, I noticed that too.
Is it right?
It's interesting because, what?
He's an expert at the Shofar.
At crying? At the Shofar.
It's approval.
Anyhow, the Yalalusa is Dina Takif, is harsh judgment, but the Tlas Tvirin, the 3 Tvirin is Shvarim, that's Dina Rafia, it's soft, because Genuchi Gonach Rafia Inun. The sighing is easy, it's easy to sigh, right? Krechs is easy, it's easy to sigh. So he says, Inun Lo Yadi, in Bavel they think that we don't know which one, Vav Din and Travas, we just do it all, just hoping we'll get the right one. But Va'ananya, we know Vav Din and Travayu. We know, and you have to do both. And there's another version which says the same thing. So the Zohar says like this: the first day of Rosh Hashanah is Din Akashia, the harsh. The second day is the soft. And so too the Shvarim and the Trua. The Shvarim is soft, the Trua is harsh. So you pointed out the order is funny, because by the days it's first the harsh din, then the soft din. But by the Shvarim and the Trua, we start with Shvarim, which is the soft, and then the harsh. I don't know. Some homework to figure out why that is. But the Zohar says both days are necessary because there are different judgments. But the Zohar doesn't really explain what's harsh judgment, soft judgment. Well, look in number 17. We know that in Rosh Hashanah a person's judged. And the Gemara says if someone's found to be a tzaddik, he's right away written in the book of life. If someone's found to be a Rosh, it's right away written in the book of death. And all the Rishonim, what does that mean? The fact is, you see Rishonim living another full year, Tzaddikim dying, how does this make any sense? And there's lots of opinions, but just look at number 17. This is the Hagoyis Maimonides, who was a student of the Rambam at Rottenburg, so you're talking about 1200s in Germany. He was never killed in the Rheinfleisch massacres in 1298. About tens of thousands of Jews were murdered in Germany. Either way, he says in number 17, Pirshu at Taisus say, the Chaim, you know what the book of life is? It doesn't mean physical life. Pirush l'chayi ad, it means eternal life in the world to come. V'misa, when we say that Rishoyim are judged to death, it means in Gehenna. Simple. Avol Ramban says that Goyis Maimonides, you got to know the Ramban. Kosov, he says no. V'zel Shonoi. Ein Adam Nidin B'Rosh Hashanah Elen Yoni Olam Hazeh. The Ramban says judgment is only for this physical world. And when it says L'chaim V'Lemisa I, then a Rasha should die within the year and a tzaddik should live. So says the Ramban, life and death doesn't mean, it means physical, but it doesn't mean life and death. Einam b'yomim b'vay is not just about the days that you live. It's the quality of, it's all punishments of Olam Hazeh, negoyim, physical afflictions, children passing away, oini, poverty, all of that is called death, and all brachas is called life. Okay. Chassidus often quotes this Hagoyis Maimonides, that judgment on Rosh Hashanah is for the physical life. However, the Alter Rebbe in a Maimer says that the Eibusha judges us for our spirituality as well. It's a pasuk. Tiku b'chai de shofar, you should blow a shofar Rosh Hashanah. What does the next pasuk say? Ki chayk li Yisrael hu, it's a law to Israel. U mishpat, there's judgment. Lelekei yankim, for the God of Israel. The Alter Rebbe explains the Eibusha judges us on our God, on the spirituality that we're going to have for the coming year. So ultimately, the Rebbe learns that actually Rosh Hashanah there's two judgments, on physicality and spirituality. I don't know if the Rebbe ever said that the 2 days of Rosh Hashanah are linked to physical and spiritual, but I did find number 16. The Chidushei Harim quotes from the Arizal, not that I know of. In number 16, the Chidushei Harim says, B'Shem HaArizal, B'Yoyim HaRishon, on day number 1 of Rosh Hashanah, Tzrichim Levakish or Lahate Rakal and Yon Neshama. The Arizal said, I didn't see it in the Arizal's forum, but this is the Chidushei Harim, the big Chassidish Rebbe quoting the Arizal, you must have seen it somewhere, that on the first day Rosh Hashanah, you request for spirituality. B'Yom HaSheni, on the second day, Mevakshim, you request on Tzorchei Aguf. So this that Chassidus Chabad says is 2 elements of Rosh Hashanah. The Arizal apparently says they take a divide between the 2 days. The first day, there's spiritual judgment. The second day, there's physical judgment. I use this to answer a certain shaila. I told this once to Rabbi Shochat, and he made with his nose, but he's not here tonight, so we're going to say it anyways. Whether you're allowed to fast or not on Rosh Hashanah, some Gaonim hold you're allowed to, most hold you can't. Comes Rav Natra Noi Gaon, one of the Gaonim, and he says the first day Rosh Hashanah you're not allowed to fast, the second day you can. No one else agrees with him because what's the difference, day 1 or day 2? But based on this Arizal, I think it makes a lot of sense. On day number 1, your soul is being judged. As far as your body is concerned, it's a Yom Tov. As far as your guf's concerned, your kashmir is not being judged. It's a Yom Tov. So how could you fast? But on day number 2, your body is being judged. So your body is in trepidation, so it makes sense to fast. Based on the Arizal, I can understand why Rav Natranoi Gaon said what he said. Anyhow, it was right after I came here. I came here 4 years ago. And it was before Rosh Hashanah, and I was by Shochat's house. I told him this word. Anyhow.
The story that you opened up with was the Rav who was his first Shabbos.
Exactly. So the Kula. Now, hold on. We're mamash wrapping it up. So, if you just take the Zohar, I don't know, maybe I would say fakir to Rav Natranoi Gaon. If the first day is a harsh judgment, then you should fast. The second day is soft, you should eat. You would flip it. But with what the Arizal says, I think Rav Natranoi Gaon makes a lot of sense. Then there's the Netziv of Volozhin. It was a Litvish Gaon 150 years ago. He wrote a sefer on Chumash, Ha'amek Dover, beautiful sefer. And in it he says that he believes on the first day of Rosh Hashanah is when you coronate Hashem. The second day is Judgment Day. That's what he tainas. He believes the first day Rosh Hashanah is Mamlich Hashem as king. The second day is when you're judged. It's the day to repent. It's a day for atonement. It's a day of tshuva. It's a day of judgment. Reb Asher Weiss in Eretz Yisrael wants to use the Netziv to answer Rav Natranoi. Do you know why the first Rosh Hashanah you can't fast? It's a Yom Tov. You're coronating the king. Imagine you fast. You know what that shows? It means you don't want God to be king. Imagine the day of the coronation. You have people who are rolling around in the sackcloth. What horrible. You got to eat. The second day, the Netziv says, is Judgment Day. That's why Rav Nachman Gaon says you should fast. That's how Osher Weiss explained. So he uses the Netziv, I use the Arizal, doesn't matter. The point is the Netziv says that these two ideas of Sadya Gaon are both true. Day number one, it's all about the shofar is to be Mamlech Hashem. Day number two, it's all about Shuvah. What I want to tell you is that l'chayra, this is the debate of the Rambam and the Raavad. Not about splitting the days, but what is the avoid of Rosh Hashanah? Both things are true. We're making Hashem king. Look at davening. No one could deny that. On the other hand, the shofar is definitely for tshuva. It's a day of judgment. It's a Mishnah Masechta Rosh Hashanah that everyone goes in front of God like sheep, and we saw the Zohar says Hashem judges. That's also not debatable. The shaila is, what's the ikar? Well, you know what the Rambam himself tells us. Look at number 18, the last Maramokum on the sheet. The Rambam writes in the laws of tshuva what he believes. He says, Afapi, even though Tkiyah Shofar in Rosh Hashanah, even though blowing Shofar is Gzeres HaKosov, Hashem said to do it. But Remez Yeshboy, there's a meaning behind it. You know what it is? It's a wake-up call. It's an alarm. Ura Yeshayni Mishnaschem, yeah? Sleepers, wake up. V'nidomim, and those that are slumbering, wake up from your slumber. Chipsus, search out your actions. Do tshuva, remember God. Says the Rambam, these are people that forget the truth. Behevli Azman, with the vanities of time. And the whole year can be spent in hevel and rake, in empty things that don't truly help. So the shofar is telling you, no! Wake up and smell the coffee. Gaze into your souls. Look at your path of life. Look at your actions. And turn over a new leaf. The Rambam learns the ikar of shofar is a wake-up call to do tshuva. So therefore the Rambam holds, is the mitzvah the blowing or is the mitzvah the hearing? The mitzvah is all about hearing. The mitzvah is to hear the wake-up call. It's not the blowing. The blowing is just to create the sound. It's just to get the alarm to buzz. The whole purpose of the shofar is to hear the call of the shofar. To wake up, hear the noise and wake up. So that's why the Rambam holds the purpose of the shofar is tshuva. So let's go, at Masha'enkin, the Raavad is going to believe no. The ikar of the shofar is like the first reason of Sadya Gaon, to coronate the king. Coronation. And you'll see how all three debates, mamash, fits like a glove. Well, hopefully.
All right.
Number one, the first debate. The Rambam says the brachas of Musaf are one package deal within themselves. But that and shofar, if you don't have one, you could have the other. Of course. The three brachas of Musaf is to be Mamlech Hashem. It's to coronate Hashem as king. Shofar is for tshuva, for the judgment. It's two different things. You can have one without the other. The Raavad learns no. The Raavad says, what are you blowing for? To coronate the Eibishter. In order to coronate Hashem, you need two things. You need to blow the shofar. You also need the psukim that you have to say. One without the other isn't going to work. So it's simple, understood very well. So to the second debate. The Rambam says, you know why you can steal the shofar? Because the shofar is just a tool with which to create the noise. It's like stealing a hammer to make a sukkah. The noise is really the item of the mitzvah. Yet the noise, it's the noise that I need.
Wake you up.
So comes the Raavad. The Raavad says, I can't use that reason. I can't use that reason. Because the Raavad holds the mitzvahs to blow. Like Rabbeinu Tam. Rabbeinu Tam would have a nusach. The bracha is litkaya or al tkiyah shofar. So according to the Raavad, the shofar is like a lulav. If it's stolen, it's mamash, you can't use it. So the Raavad says, but the Yerushalmi found a pasuk which teaches me that it's always okay, but that's why he wrote it. He wasn't stam writing it. He needs this. This is why he can agree to the din. And so to the third debate. The Rambam believes the shofar has to be bent. B'di'evid, if you have the wild goat which is straight, it won't work. According to the Rambam, the shofar needs to be bent. The whole purpose of the shofar is tshuva when you're broken, subrochen. When you coronate a king, you prostrate yourself. Hishtachavo is flat. So the Raavad therefore says like this. I agree the shofar also needs tshuva, right? For sure, that's definitely an element. So l'chatchila, if it's bent, good. But b'di'evid, if you have the wild goat one, like he says, the yal, which is flat and straight, of course you're yotzeh, because you still have the ikar. You have the main thing. When you coronate a king, you bow down, you prostrate yourself. That's represented in a straight shofar. The kircher represents tshuva. According to the Rambam, the ikr is the tshuva, so you need a bent shofar. If it's not bent, you lost the plot. According to the Raavad, no, but the Evid with a flat shofar, it also works, because you still have the plot.
The ikr still with the bent one.
Okay. Why? Because even when you accept the king, there's two things. There's koirim and mishtachavim. Lifnei melch macham lochem HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Koirim, you're bent. Mishtachavim, you're flat. So if you have the bent shofar, you have both. You have the bent of tshuva, you also have the koirim. When you bend it, right? Koirim, you're not flat on the floor.
That's the
Flat, you just-
But the Yevid, if you're flat, so you have the mishtachavim, that's the ikar of Rosh Hashanah, it works. So you see that all three debates, mamish, boil down to the true reasons of Reb Sadya Gaon. What is Rosh Hashanah all about? The Netziv says they're both true, day 1, day 2. I believe I saw a hint in the Rebbe's words somewhere, but I can't find it, that the Rebbe once said, and don't quote me on this because I don't know if it's true, but it's actually the difference between the Tekiah versus the Shvarim and the Trua. The Tekiah is a simple flat sound. The Shvarim and the Trua represent a person that's broken. He's so broken he can't even get the sound out of his mouth. That's Tzubrochenkeit, that's Tshuva. When you coronate the king, you don't break in middle. It's a beautiful flat noise. So it could be that even within the Tekiah, Shvarim and Trua, you have these two elements. Anyhow, but that's an
That's the
idea.
machlek with the
So
Gemara as well. then?
on the second one.
So yeah. So I want to tie in number 6, right? The Gemara speaks about, is it better that your mind is curved or mind is straight?
Depends malchus or tshuva.
So the Rishonim all discuss the Rashba, what exactly it means. But you could, if you stick this in, it fits very well. Is it the tshuva or it's prostrating yourself in front of the king?
Shana Tova, if I don't
Shana
see
Tova.
Anyhow, this is really
a curved or something.
curved or straight, it should be a healthy one, a good one.
Amen.
So I have